Welcome back, my gentle people. This is Corner Stories with your daily serving of relationship stories. So let's get into it. I am not sure what to do. My boyfriend's sister, Chrissy, pulled a prank on me 2 months ago. She left about 50 gnomes in my front yard, no warning, they were just there. I called people up and asked them, but no one would tell me. I guess this is part of the prank. I fucking had no clue what was going on. Eventually the kids in the neighborhood started picking them off, so I brought them inside my garage. 2 of them were pretty cute, so I cleaned them up and put them in the house. I waited for someone to come clean. But no one did. After 3 weeks, I decided I was going to just donate them. A few friends asked if they could have some and I let them. I started giving them to people who commented on one being interesting or cute. I told my boyfriend about my army and he laughed. I thought he might have done it, but he said he honestly didn't. So I believed him. Well, he went on a 4-week trip with his family to Europe. I got a few emails from him, but we were both busy. I went on a trip myself, for work and for pleasure. So when he got back, he asked how the gnomes were treating me and I let him know most of them had found new homes. He got really silent and asked how many I had left. I told him 10. He asked who took them and said we needed to get them back. I was confused. It had been 2 months, and the gnomes were kind of a funny story, but I don't remember everyone who took one, let alone the kids who picked about 10 off the lawn. He then told me they belonged to Chrissy, who thought I had just stored them in my garage, which is why she didn't pick them up before the trip. Chrissy is his sister. Apparently Chrissy has been pulling the gnome army prank for years. And I am the bitch who gave away her army. My boyfriend is furious with me and asked why I would do that. I told him he should have come clean and I would have just kept them in my garage for her to pick up later. He said it wasn't how the prank worked. He said he needs to rethink the relationship. He wants me to get them back, as they are dear to Chrissy. Chrissy doesn't know yet. I am not sure what to do about this. I had a few people offer to return their gnomes, but the rest of the people said they gave them away to so-and-so and didn't know where they were now. This is such a surreal situation and I have no fucking clue what to do about it. I don't see how I was wrong, but I feel bad. So, what can I do? Relevant comments. They have no reason to try to hold you accountable for not following the unreasonable rules of a game you didn't know about. Give back the gnomes you have, but don't feel like you have to acquiesce and go out of your way to try to recover the gnomes that are lost. That's not your business. They left a bunch of stuff on somebody else's property, unannounced and unidentified, and you shouldn't be blamed for cleaning up your property. OP replied. I am willing to give back the ones I have and have gotten 3 back from people. Comment 2. Please show them this thread, so they can realize how fucking stupid everyone thinks it is to play a prank on someone, abandon the materials used for the prank for 2 months without owning up that they had done it and requesting the gnomes back, and then getting angry when the gnomes, which had been abandoned for 2 months, are disposed of. This is one of the most ludicrous things I have ever read on this sub. You weren't wrong because you asked around to see who the gnomes belonged to before giving them away. It's their own fault for doing a stupid prank like that, then leaving you in the dark for months. Had they left the gnomes on your lawn one night then collected them after you saw them, the prank could have been really cute and funny. If your boyfriend leaves you or holds this over your head, good riddance. OP replied. I just don't know what would make him think I would keep them. I am one of the neatest people I know. I don't keep junk around. I have a few things that I kept out of sentiment, but if I don't need it I don't keep it. Update. I decided to bite the bullet and talk to Chrissy. I brought the gnomes I had to her house and knocked on the door. Chrissy's mom answered and asked me in. I was tired of the immaturity and mind games. My boyfriend has been sending me threatening get me more gnomes bitch type texts. I could see a lot of red flags, or red hats, if you are so inclined. I wanted Chrissy to have her gnomes back and just get it over with. When I handed Mrs. Mom the open box, she asked where I got these. She seemed really upset I even had them. I told her the story. Pretty much what I said in the last post, but with some more detail. Her reply was, Joe has been telling a totally different story. She seemed really hurt about the whole thing, and while I wanted to make a quick getaway, I was fucking curious. Mrs. Mom told me a little bit of the background. I am not going to repeat everything she said, cause some of it's sad and pathetic and a little too dark for a post about a gnome invasion. The gnome army belonged to Chrissy's late boyfriend Steve. Steve and Chrissy used to put them in people's yards and then demand another member for their army. So the gnomes came from people Steve and Chrissy knew over a period of about 5 years. Steve passed away, Chrissy stopped the gnome pranks, and put them into storage. She has not pulled the prank in almost 2 years now, but freaks out if someone mentions getting rid of the gnomes or even moving the box. I felt like an asshole, but Mrs. Mom thanked me for bringing some of them back. She did say the annoying line, you should have kept them even if you didn't know who they belonged to. She did say she was going to replace the gnomes in the boxes with other ones and hope Chrissy didn't notice. Not sure this is a smart idea. She said she wanted to believe me but that this is likely the last time she would want me in her house. Gee, thanks. I said that was fine, I had no intention of staying in a family who pulled weird pranks then blamed the victims. One bridge burned. I mean, I understand she is likely upset because Chrissy apparently doesn't handle any mention of Steve well. She is likely going to be upset and never speak to the person at fault again. Which is likely me. How I got them out of a storage unit 3 hours away. The mystery will likely haunt their family for years. As for my now ex-boyfriend, I went to his house and asked him why he pulled the prank. His answer was stupid and telling, I don't know. He wouldn't answer me and he wouldn't tell me what was going on. He said he just wanted to do something cute, then it got out of hand, and he thought I would keep them. Something about having his own little secret made him happy. I got my things from his room and left. I told him that our mutual friend Jake would bring his stuff by at a later time. Jake agreed to this and said Joe's story was BS. I guess Joe told people I got the gnomes out of the storage unit and put them in the yard to get attention. That totally makes sense. I guess it was spiteful to do, but I did send Chrissy a message on FB. Chrissy, I don't think we will be friends after this. I know you want to believe your brother. But I did not take your gnomes, I did not know why they were in my yard or even that you had them. Please understand I would never aim to hurt, steal, or take from you. Your brother admitted to putting them in my yard, though I have no idea why he did it. I got an okay back. Then she blocked me. I blocked Joe and his family. I am not sure what to do now, but it has been a really interesting few weeks for sure. TLDR, found out the truth. Boyfriend at fault. Chrissy heartbroken. Sigh. The gnomes strike again. Relevant comments on being told she has a great story to tell people. OP replied, yeah, it's pretty weird. Has to be the strangest end to a relationship I have ever had. And I have some doozy ex-boyfriends. Comment 2. Either this is a troll post or you people have way too much time on your hands. Imagining a bunch of adults having a family feud over gnomes is just ridiculous. Op replied, I didn't feud. Why the fuck would I want an argument about gnomes? I returned what I had, I got rid of the ones that were in the yard, and the issue was the fact my boyfriend lied and made it into a huge deal. Final comment from OP, even I can't take this seriously. It is a shitty thing to do to anyone, but the fact that Chrissy had some sort of secret gnome army belonging to a dead boyfriend seems so creepy. And my ex is just... yeah. It was an asshole thing to do, gnome or no gnome. Now that is the end of the gnome story. I hope you enjoyed listening to it. Feel free to drop a like or a sub, that would be most appreciated. And without further distractions we will move to story 2. My ex and I were together for 4 years, but we amicably separated 6 years ago as we grew apart, typical of young love. Since I spent 2 of those 4 years living at his parents' house, I grew close to his family and friends, some of whom I still stay in daily contact with, including my ex, mainly on Snapchat, but we don't chat much, it's mostly for sharing updates or keeping streaks. That's why I visit the town 100 kilometers away every year for the annual town festival, to see old faces, share stories, and have fun. The festival lasts from Friday evening to Sunday afternoon, and I often help with serving, setting up, and cleaning. I've been dating my current boyfriend for 4 months, locally. It's a relatively new relationship, but I've learned from past relationships the importance of open communication, which has worked well for us. I've never hidden the fact that I'm still friends with my ex, nor that nothing has happened between us since the breakup. A few days ago, we discussed our weekend plans for the next few weeks, and I mentioned my upcoming visit to my ex's home in 2 weeks. He didn't take it well, even though he had never had an issue with our friendship before. He finds it weird and odd that I'm visiting my ex while being in a new relationship, and I agree with him. I'm aware that it's not the norm. I've never given him a reason not to trust me. I've never cheated in past relationships, and having experienced being cheated on myself, I know how painful it is, and I'd never do that. He says he trusts me, or rather, he says he has to trust me because he has no other choice. He doesn't forbid me from visiting my ex, but his tone and behavior indicate that it bothers him. When I asked him how he feels about it, he simply said, I can't change it, so it doesn't matter what I think. I understand that communication is a learning curve, and this is his first longer-term relationship, so I'm willing to be patient as we both navigate this. However, it's been 5 days since we first talked about it, and there's no improvement in sight. I'll definitely still visit my ex because my main goal is to see people I'm not in touch with on social media. But I don't know how long I can tolerate my boyfriend's lack of communication. It's just a tiny part of our relationship. Most of the time, he communicates openly. It's just in this case, he's not, and it's bothering me immensely. Edit. Thank you very much in advance for all the comments. Unfortunately, I have a very busy weekend ahead, so I won't be able to respond to everyone, but I will read every comment. Just from quickly skimming through, I've already noticed some things that will definitely give me food for thought. Edit 2. Just a few things I've read a few times. I offered my boyfriend to come along. My ex's parents took me in like their own child, and I'm sure they would be excited to meet my boyfriend, their foundling. However, my boyfriend declined without giving a reason. He also didn't want to meet my ex beforehand, claiming it would be weird. Edit 3. My main issue is that I'd like to talk about the whole situation, possibly find a compromise, and ease both his and my conscience. However, it's challenging when he doesn't want to discuss it with me. That would be fine, we don't have to talk about everything. But he denies that there's anything to discuss, yet at the same time, he makes passive-aggressive comments that suggest he's not okay with it. Edit 4. I wouldn't have a problem if he visited an ex. I generally trust him until he gives me a reason not to. But apparently, that might be naive of me. I just want to mention that his ex-girlfriend is literally his work colleague, that he spends 8 hours every day, 5 days a week with. And I don't have a problem with that. I actually find it good that they separated without it being toxic and that they still get along. Edit 5. I won't be staying in my ex's house, I'll be staying with his neighbor, with whom I'm in daily contact. Edit 6. I can't exactly pinpoint my question for you. I think I just wanted to get this off my chest, sort out my thoughts. A few comments. You would do that to me exactly twice, the first and the last time. Unbelievable behavior. Who does something like that? I would never in my life let my girlfriend go to her ex, let alone stay overnight. Even maintaining contact with the parents and, even worse, the ex, I can't comprehend. I couldn't do it in my life, and I think it's very rare for another guy not to care if his girlfriend talks to her ex. Usually, it's a big no-go. I don't know anyone who would be cool with it. I can understand that you don't want to simply give up on your acquaintances' friends from the past. However, please be aware that this is a tough pill for your boyfriend to swallow. He's your ex, and I assume you'll be staying there as well? That would be a problem for many. Your boyfriend seems to be doing his best to cope with the situation and isn't forbidding anything, yet you're still dissatisfied? He's showing you that it hurts him, and you, in my opinion, are just finding faults in him, communication, instead of seeing what you're currently expecting, demanding from him. I don't want to attack you, but I want to give you some food for thought. Your views on meetings with ex-partners and perfect communication may not necessarily align with his. Give him some time to process this, instead of counting the days when, in your opinion, he's not functioning ideally. Update. First of all, a massive thank you to everyone who commented. As I mentioned, I didn't have time to respond to everyone over the weekend, but I read everything multiple times. You tore me apart in the comments, but that's exactly what I needed, a wake-up call. I realized that I definitely mishandled the whole situation by presenting my boyfriend with a fait accompli. That was pretty selfish of me, probably because I haven't been in a serious relationship for 6 years and had gotten used to a lifestyle where I only had to consider myself for decisions. But that's, of course, no excuse or justification for my actions, so on to the actual update. After the weekend, I initiated another conversation with my boyfriend. First and foremost, I apologized and basically explained to him what I wrote above. That my freedom over the past few years had apparently made me selfish and uncompromising, and that I definitely need to work on myself and how I communicate things. I then tried to explain to him in more detail why visiting my ex was so important to me. His family took me in when my parents kicked me out back then. They loved me as if I were their own child, just when I needed it most. Not just once did they pull me out of a depressive, in one case, even suicidal, pit, and I will be forever grateful for that. I'm still in regular contact with my ex's friends and meet up with someone from the group about every 2 months. I try to make him understand that I'm not specifically going to see my ex but everyone who lives in that village. The annual town festival is the weekend of the year when everyone comes together there. I told him how sorry I was but that the visit had been arranged for almost 10 months, and they were also counting on my help with the festival, and I would feel guilty. I had been looking forward to the festival for so long that not being able to go would break my heart a little. But despite all of this, none of these things were the end of the world, and they could somehow be straightened out. If he really wanted me to, I could cancel it. His reaction surprised me. He communicated that, thanks to the detailed explanation, he now understood and was happy for me to see those people again. He said that what had originally bothered him was how I had communicated it. He told me to go and have fun. However, he couldn't come along due to other commitments. The following 2 weeks were quite uneventful. Whenever the visit was mentioned, he genuinely seemed happy for me. Fast forward to the Friday I was supposed to leave. I came home from work at noon, packed the last of my things, and was ready to drive off. Except I couldn't find my car keys. I was sure they were on the hook that morning, but they weren't there. I searched the entire house. Nada, nothing. I then messaged my boyfriend, who was still at work, asking if he had seen them. After half an hour, he replied that he didn't know, but he could check his pockets to see if they were there. I thanked him and waited. Another half hour passed, and he messaged that they were indeed in his pocket but that I didn't need to come to get them. It would take 30 minutes each way by public transport, because he'd be home in an hour anyway. I thought, alright, I'll wait for that hour and then leave. That way, I'll see him again before I go. After an hour and a half of waiting, I called him. He was still out with a colleague having a drink. At that moment, I had already given up on leaving that day without being overly tired. I told him not to rush, that I'd wait. So, I laid down on the couch and watched some TV series. Shortly before 11 at night, my boyfriend came home slightly tipsy and acted like everything was normal. I asked him if he could give me the car key so that I could leave early in the morning. After a few minutes of hesitation, he said that he had left it at work. Up until that point, I had remained calm because mistakes can happen. But then, I got angry. I asked if he was serious. Yes, he said, he was sorry, but there was nothing he could do now. The office was closed until Monday. But we could have a nice weekend at home. At that moment, I still didn't want to believe that he had orchestrated all of this, although the thought had briefly crossed my mind. I also couldn't talk about it anymore and started crying. To calm myself down, I decided to take my luggage and stay with a friend. In response, he left the room without saying a word and returned a minute later with the car key, which he had suddenly found, and asked me to stay until the next morning. After another 15 minutes of crying, I drove to my friend's place anyway, and the next morning, I went to my ex-boyfriend's. Because I was there to help with the festival, I didn't have time to think about the situation or talk to him. But during the car ride home, I spent a long time trying to find a logical explanation for his behavior. I failed miserably. It's not even his car. He hardly ever drives my car, and when he does, he usually asks beforehand. So, I was pretty sure that all of this was planned. When I got home, he acted as if everything was okay, but he still seemed passive-aggressive. After unpacking, I confronted him during dinner about whether the whole thing was really an accident. After repeatedly asking him because things seemed illogical to me, e.g., why he should take my key to work at all, he suddenly got very angry. He said he never said or meant it that way. Was I too stupid to understand his words? Both he and I exchanged insults and shouted at each other. Then a plate flew in my direction, and I left and spent the rest of the day with friends. I knew the relationship was over, but he may not have realized it yet. The next day, while he was at work, 2 friends and I packed all of his things, and then we waited for him to come home. He probably thought he could talk his way out of it again, but I told him it was over. He didn't want to accept it until he saw his packed things. He became loud and aggressive again, but after a 10-minute tirade, he finally returned my house key, threw it on the ground and spat on it, with the words, "You damn slut, you'll regret this when you die alone. But at least you can screw your ex without a guilty conscience. That was surely your plan, that's what you wanted, right?" And then he left. Since then, I've blocked him everywhere and haven't seen him, and I hope it stays that way. I used to think that stories like these, when you read them on Reddit, are often exaggerated or even made up. And now something this crazy happened to me. I have no idea where it came from or how deep these aggressions were lurking inside him. To be honest, I'm still shocked by what came out of him. I've never been so afraid of another person and actually don't want to deal with the incident anymore, which is why the ending is probably quite short and lacking detail compared to the rest of the story. A few comments: you made the right decision to break up with him. Such manipulative behavior destroys trust, and you can't have a relationship with someone who plays such games. I'm sorry it escalated this way. Aggressive behavior is also unacceptable. Obviously, it made him very insecure that you went to see your ex. I think almost anyone would have felt strange about it. I would have asked him if he wanted to come along instead of excluding him. Before the relationship failed, your communication failed. However, that does not justify his behavior under any circumstances. The comments section is wild. Many seem unable to distinguish between allowing, prohibiting, and you can do XY, but I have the following opinion and will probably draw those consequences. The end result may be the same, but the former implies a power imbalance, while the latter does not. Allowing or prohibiting things is done with children or people over whom one thinks they have control. The other option is a relationship on an equal footing, where each person can decide for themselves about possible consequences. So, if someone wants to visit their ex, you can say, "You are welcome to do that, however, I don't like it for these and those reasons, and I will reconsider our relationship." Then both sides know where they stand on this matter and can make a decision with appropriate consequences. For some, this might be a deal breaker, for others not. Hiding car keys, manipulating, and throwing dishes are absolutely unacceptable. It's good that OP decided to end the relationship. And that is the end of the story. That's it guys, this is where I will leave you. I hope you enjoyed the stories I had for you. I certainly enjoyed them. Please be sure to drop a like or a comment, and it would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel. Until next time, be kind, be curious, and I will see you. Corner Stories signing off.